Welcome back, and if you remember last time, the redrive was ready to be installed again back on the engine mount. So as you can see, that has now happened. Devin gave me a hand with getting that all sorted out. And back in the cabin, I'm moving on to installing the trim motor. And as you can see there, I've put a connector on there, and I got it wired up and it's hooked up to that little fiberglass spring there that we created. And in the process of testing that, and initially I had it, when I had it wired, it was working sort of backwards, so instead of trying to configure it, I just flipped the wires and it's working the right way. So Jeff's moving on to getting these hinges for the foreplane. They're aligned nicely, all sort of perfectly in the same alignment, using that sort of right angle aluminum channel, and bonding those into place. And back in the cabin now, so the side sticks here have these little hats on them that allow you to adjust, trim on the elevator and the aileron. And so if you see there, I'm actually pushing on the trim switch, and if you look there, you can see the linear actuator just sort of pulling in there, and that's doing sort of a nose up attitude there. So that appears to be working from the side stick, which is neat. And the left and right on that hat will be the Aileron Trim, which obviously doesn't work like that. It has that little trim tab that we have there. But yeah, just pushing up and down that, and as I said initially, I had that around the wrong way, and so all I had to do was just switch the wires around, because it's just power in one way and power around the other way, and it just makes it work in the opposite direction. Anyway, so that job is now done. So moving right along, I got that side stick installed, and got the front panel in there as well without the 460 in place there. I'm just trying to get everything done as much as I can. There you can see you are able to override that spring. You can actually push the stick all the way forward and all the way back if the trim is in the middle position. And here you can see I've got the governor working as well, the governor controller working. So that's going to coarse pitch and then to flat pitch, and you go to coarse again, and then you can press the button and it'll take it all the way to flat pitch again. So that's another job done. Just had to wire that one up. And Jeff and Devin are in the process of getting the covers put on there for the parachute strap. So the first one has been glued down. We're just using this epoxy glue there that's strong enough to hold it down, but it'll be tear out if the parachute ever gets deployed. And there's the other one done now, just some duct tape just holding that in place while that epoxy sets up. So that's another job done. Boy, we're just knocking down all these jobs that have been on the list forever and ever. And so here's that lower skin that Jeff sort of filled in those slots that were cut because of those other roller kind of hangers. And you see he's done a nice job in there. You can barely tell that there was a fill. And it's just carbon fiber behind there, and he chamfered the edge, and there's a little bit of Cabasil just to smooth the whole thing out when it was done. But because it was vacuumed down, it ended up being nice and smooth. So that's getting close to being ready to refit on there for the new hangers. And here's Devin working on the intake tray, and he's just got these countersunk screws now, and he's put I think you saw last time him and Jeff were putting in the big nut plates there for that to hold it together. And so now I'm in the cabin still, and I'm moving on. I've got the some of the ducting in for the AC system there. That's the one that runs across to the right hand vent there, and I've fed the one there that's going to go through to the center console down to the back. And it's just, as you can see, they're just sitting kind of loosely there on the floor. Hasn't been trimmed yet. And I've got the throttle handles in there as well. It looks a bit weird where they are because that center stack's not in the right place, but they're working out well. And so now I've got both sticks in there, as you can see, and they're connected. So you can push and pull and left and right, and everything's working. And so those are in and staying. So hopefully now everything I'm putting in is staying in. And here you can see Jeff's got this the first part of this elevator now just mocked up just to test it, and it's working nice and smoothly now, as expected with this, just a simple hinge design. And so there where I'm just pointing, those areas have to be sort of notched out a little bit to allow the little bit of up elevator there, or up elevator for a nose down attitude. So, but you can see that's a nice sort of fitment there. And we've got just a nice gap there. I think it's going to work well. And back in the cabin now, let's see, what else have I done there? So I showed you the ducting there, and now I've got the one on the other side, put some cable ties in there, and then this is the one running down to the left side vent there. So all the ducts are run now, and this one here that goes in the back, that just has to be trimmed, and ultimately that'll go to the vents on the back of the center console. And I've gone and adjusted the rod on that throttle, so that's done. And here I've actually put in the wiring now, or starting to put in the wiring for the temp sensors. That's the first one there done in the tank. And moving on now, so these are the magnets there for, or actually the magnetic switches there for the landing gear position indicators. And so I got 3 of those, and just Loctited them onto their little brackets, and they're ready to be installed now. And here you can see I've got the first one now installed on the main gear. It's a bit difficult with the camera angle to try and get behind there, but there's the switch, and then just below it is the magnet that actually triggers it. So there's nothing actually touching, nothing have to worry about getting dirt on anything or anything like that. It's just a magnetic connection, and the only thing that we have to do is adjust it later on just to make sure that it's the right distance apart. And I'm trying to get an angle so you can see it, but it's a bit difficult there. It kind of is there. Yep. So yeah, that's another job sort of getting underway, or getting out of the way there. And while I'm working in the back of the cabin, so now you can see I've hooked up the right hand side fuel tank level sensor, and there's the temp sensor that I did the other day, or the day before. So, and those wires are just basically drilled through the bulkhead, and then those are the wires there for the telemetry for the accelerometers in the right wing. And same over this side, the temp sensor, fuel level, and the telemetry wires through the bulkhead, and those just have to be sealed with some RTV. And then back in there, you can see I've got the wiring there running out to down there. You can see in the middle of the screen there the magnet switch there for the right hand side main gear to indicate that it's locked and down. So I did the right and left on that, and got all that done there. So pretty much everything that needed to be done up the back here has been done now. And those wires for the telemetry, you're just going to leave them just like that, and later on when we need to, we'll just sort of strip the ends of those, and we'll be able to connect them up to the data recorder. And Jeff and Devin busy getting this wing all ready to be bonded into place, and or the wing skin, actually the lower wing skin. And here you can see they've got it all clecoed and set up, ready to go. And I wanted to show you, Jeff had ordered some straight rod from UPS, or from McMaster via UPS, and it arrived today, and the UPS guy sort of ducked in and out and just dumped this for us. And yeah, that was the condition of the tube, and that's a heavy tube as well. Somebody really dropped something big on that. And needless to say, the stainless rod in there that was supposed to be a straight rod for helping align those elevator things is kind of bent like a pretzel. So yeah, thanks UPS. Fail again. Normally they're good, but whatever. Anyway, so moving on, I wanted to show you, this is kind of what the work involved with hooking up those wires there for the gear position switches there. So up front the wires were run, but they hadn't been actually connected through the bulkhead pass-through yet. They were connected on the other side inside the cabin. So what it involves is basically stripping off. I've got 2 different wires there that each have 2 different wires within them. One's for the gear up position thing, and one's for the gear down. And right now, the only one that I've done is for gear down, because later on we'll do the gear up when we get the doors sorted out. So what I had to do there is just basically strip the ends off, crimp a couple of connectors on there, put a ground wire on there because I'm using the shield there as a ground. Those magnetic switches basically just pull the circuit to ground, and that triggers the landing gear position LEDs to go green when the gear is locked down. So I'm just putting little crimp-on connectors in there, and then I've got to push those lines there into the bulkhead pass-through. And then the other thing I had to do was also do the one for the nose gear. So that involved just doing the same thing, running just a 2-pair or 1-pair cable just down to the nose gear, and screwing the little magnet switch onto the nose gear arm, and again running the wires up and then through the bulkhead connector. Everything in the cabin was already done, so this just meant to stuff that just needed to be done outside. So but again, all this stuff takes so much time just to do all these things, and this project just seems to be going on and on and on and on and on, and there's always something more to do. But as you can see, it's coming together, and a lot of it is just figuring out what needs to be done. If you had an instruction manual that had everything in the right order, to do this, do this, do this, and you never had to undo anything or redo or test or think about anything, it would go pretty quickly. And a lot of this stuff could be done on a bench instead of doing it out here. These wires, I could have run those on the bench, but at the time I wasn't exactly sure what the switches were going to look like on the gear. And there you can see I'm just finding the right hole there for each of the pins and just plugging them in there and putting them into that connector, and it's ready to test in the cabin now. Oh, and there's the grounds as well. Just running the ground wires there to my little ground bus. So that's another job out of the way. Just needs to be tested. And Devin and Jeff are going to put that skin on. So Devin is just measuring out the high sole there for all the different flanges on that wing. And that's a lot of high sole that you need. And we were just talking about how much high sole we've used to bond all the different parts together and how much it costs. And I'd hate to even calculate it, but it's thousands of dollars worth of high sole to do this aircraft. It's ridiculous. There's got to be a way of getting it cheaper or whatever, but look at all that high sole on there, and it's like $125 a kit. There's probably $300 worth of high sole just to bond that skin on there. So but anyway, that's what you use for bonding carbon fiber together if you want it to stay together. So anyway, I just look at it every time and just like, oh my god, it's just ridiculous how much they charge for this stuff. And Mark has a cute term for it. He calls it gorilla snot. But anyway, here we are. Just I'm got one hand on the camera and one hand helping just hold the skin off there, and while Jeff gets it aligned before we actually drop it into place, because he doesn't want to smear the high sole everywhere. He wants the skin to sort of go on straight. So he's just sort of sliding it over that little tab that we ended up creating, or that Devin ended up creating there for the tie down, which is there right at that leading edge. And now Jeff's just getting a Cleco in there to make sure everything's aligned nicely. And before we actually drop the skin onto all of the ribs there and the spar. So it's been a while in coming, trying to get these wings closed out, but here's the first one getting done, and on Monday the other one will get done, and it still needs to have the skin done there on the far end for the winglet, but that's a quick job to do that. It's not as involved as doing this whole wing skin. So getting close to having the wings ready to go, and as you can see with the foreplane, not too much further away from being able to close that one out too, now that everything's sort of figured out with respect to the hinging mechanism there for the elevators. So yeah, Jeff ended up running through after doing that and just putting a whole bunch of rivets where all those Clecos were to hold that skin down or to pull it down, because we didn't have any way set up, to clamp it in place other than Clecoing it. And back in the cabin here, you can see I've actually installed a little USB power outlet in there with the intention of just running a couple of little wires out of the front there for the tablets that I'm going to have up there, and you'll see that later on.
Nicely. You happy with how it's
And so there's the skin there now, all riveted into place, and Jeff's also clamped some straight edges there on the areas there where it doesn't have any rivets in. And up the top here you can see everything sort of sitting down nicely, so that's exciting. A nice big milestone getting that first wing closed out there. As you can see, he's just putting another straight edge on this trailing edge there at the start there, just to clamp it down nicely so it's a nice even gap from front to back. And there's high sole squeezing out of there, literally money squeezing out out of the gap there. Anyway, I just wish there was another way that we could do this without expensive high sole. And finally, back in the cabin, I've got everything sort of mocked up now and operational. So there's one of the 460s PFD. I've got the iPad there, sitting there running ForeFlight. I've got the Windows tablet running the ECU monitor. And then the other 460 is a MFD. There's the autopilot ahead, and then the overhead switches that are there. And then down in the center, I've got the 750, and I've got to figure out how to change the brightness on that. And below that, the AC unit, and then the landing gear LEDs are super bright. You can't miss those. Anyway, the switches, magnetic switches that I've done have worked. Those are showing green now, gear down. And the vents are working there, and I can turn the fan on even without the engine running, obviously, and just blow some air out of there, so that's working. And yeah, so things are coming along in the cabin and really starting to look like something. And here's a bit of a look with the lights on, with my flash on. And as you can see, I've also got the seats in there. Just they're not bonded in yet. But I can actually sit in the seats without them moving. But anyway, yeah, there you can see that both of those tablets are just going to be kind of stuck to that panel for now, with this really super sticky rubber thing that I purchased. And there you can see the throttle controls there, and the landing gear switch. And you can see that those landing gear LEDs are not blocked. This is from my point of view. You can see them quite easily. In fact, they're so bright you can't miss them. And looking in the back there, it's all cleaned up and ready to put the seats in there. Those rear doors will go on the pressure bulkhead eventually, and close that out, and carpet on there. And one final look again. I got the 750 sorted out with the display, so just to give you another look here with the lights off in there, and it looks pretty neat. And as I said, ForeFlight on the iPad there, and the Motec ECU displaying all the engine parameters there on the Windows tablet. And then over that, next to that, the 460, and I still got some squawks and that. I'm having a problem with the audio on the headset. I hear it initially after I plug the headset in, and then it sort of fades out. And I think I might have grounded out the jacks when I shouldn't have. And I've got a couple other little things there that I need to test, but it is transmitting on the frequency. I tested it with my little handheld radio, and it was receiving my things, and you could hear my voice, but I'm not able to hear any audio coming back the other way. I can initially, but not after a second or so. So something weird's going on there. And as I said, those LEDs for landing gear are way too bright. We need to sort that out. Need to dim them or something. But anyway, things are coming along. That's our update for this week. Thanks again for watching, and tune in again next week and see what things are happening